You lived through all these years.
Yes.
You know when things will happen. I wouldn't want to bear that burden.
I'm Christopher John Farley, a senior editor at the Wall Street Journal. I'm here with Caitriona Balfe, who is the star of Outlander on Starz. Hey, thanks for coming to the Wall Street Journal.
Thank you very much for having me.
On Outlander, you play Claire, who is this nurse in World War II who gets magically transported back to 18th century Scotland, where she gets into an affair with Jamie, who is a clan leader. On the new season of Outlander, though, it's sort of a change of locale. You're in Paris, and you didn't film it in France. You filmed it in Prague and still in Scotland.
Yeah.
How did you still keep that Parisian vibe going on set?
Well, we have a fantastic art department. I think that's where it first started. I mean, when we unfortunately heard we weren't going to Paris, which I think everyone was quite sad about, you know, they built a lot of the sets in our studio in Cumbernauld. And when you walk in and all of a sudden there's this incredible Parisian apartment created, you know, you feel transported, definitely. But, you know, our show, our couple, the central couple, Jamie and Claire, they moved to France to try and subvert the course of history. So they're trying to stop the Battle of Culloden happening. And, you know, in Paris is where the heads of the Jacobite rebellion are living. So that's why they go there to the court of Louis XIV to try and change all of that.
Now, I'm having trouble letting go with something that happened last season where your romantic interest, Jamie, he's brutally sexually assaulted by Black Jack Randall, who's one of the villains on the show. Now, sometimes there are extreme things that happen on Outlander, from sex scenes to this assault. Is there anything that's happened on the show or anything you've seen in the script where you said, that goes too far, I don't want to act that crosses the line for me?
You know, I think with all of those intense scenes, be they violent or sexual, there is always a conversation with the writers. Yeah. And so when we're presented with episodes in the beginning, I feel incredibly lucky that they have such an openness to a dialogue with the actors. And there are times where sometimes you'll go, this bit I might not be so happy with. But, you know, it's always a give and take. And I think that that's the great thing. We try and, you know, stick to making it honest to the character and what their experience is. And sometimes that will be quite difficult to watch, but we had a mandate very early on that Ron was very adamant we wouldn't just show sex gratuitously or violence, and that if it was there, it would be there for a reason. And so I think that we've pretty much we've stuck to that very well, and I think we all fight daily to make sure that that's the case.
You know, the show's also very romantic, and that scene was so heavy, it sort of hangs over some of the romance and has even sort of come between you and Jamie on the show.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, the great thing about Claire and Jamie was the passion and the intimacy that they shared, and that's the evil genius, I suppose, in a way, of Black Jack Randall, that he was able to poison that one, you know, safe space that Jamie had, which was the intimacy and his love for Claire. So when we see them in season 2, you know, that's very much ruptured. There is no intimacy. They can't, you know, there's no sex because Jamie is still recovering from that trauma. And, you know, I think it was important to be able to allow the characters time to heal and time to get over it and show that within a marriage how difficult it is when you're dealing with something like that. And I thought that they handled it very well.
And of course, Outlander is based on a series of books, and there's another show out there based on a series of books, Game of Thrones, that for their new season, they've gone beyond what's been written. Mm-hmm. Do you feel it's important for your show to sort of hew to what's been written on the page? I mean, is that important to you to sort of stick to what's already there in the text? Because you do stick pretty closely to the book from the books from what I can see.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think that we have a really close relationship with Diana. Everyone on the show does, and she's a consultant on the show. And I think that
Diana Gabaldon, who's the author behind the books.
The author, yes. And I think from the very beginning that Chris Albrecht, who's the head of Starz, he was quite adamant that, you know, that we would make it, you know, primarily for the fans of the books, and that, you know, this is a show that, you know, we're going to follow the books quite closely. Of course, things are going to change in the process of adaptation. And there are some times when there are parts of the book that it's more difficult to tell it in the format of a TV show, and so things get changed or moved around a little bit. But I think that that's what's exciting. In a way, you know, fans of the books will find what they love about it, but they will also be surprised, and there'll be new things for them. And then people who haven't read the books, hopefully they just see a great TV show.
Now, I see a lot of debate online about your character's choices, and one thing that I was sort of debating is the way you treated your husband when you sort of came back to England, came back to the present day for your character, because you just come back, you were bearing another man's child, you've been away for 2 years, and you kind of treated him in a sort of a cold way. I mean, what did you think of the way your character reacted to Frank when you got back to England?
Well, you know, she is someone who's going through a lot of grief. You know, when we first meet Claire, she believes that everything that she loved in the 18th century has been lost. So for me, it was very important that, you know, Tobias plays Frank so beautifully, and he comes to Claire with such hope, and, you know, there's such emotional openness. And for Claire, I feel like she had to keep her barrier up, because if she gave him any hope, if she gave him any sort of window that suggested that things could ever go back to the way they were, then she would be hurting him more than she is in this present moment. Because for her, everything's changed. She loves another man. She's experienced a love that is incomparable to anything she ever experienced before, and, you know, it will never go back to the way it was. So, in a way, her holding up that barrier is being cruel to be kind, I guess.
You've also got a new movie out called Money Monster. Tell me a bit about that and who you play in that movie.
Well, Money Monster is a fantastic thriller. It is real time over the course of one day, and the events that happen once there is a catastrophic glitch in a high-frequency trading investment bank, and I play the head of the PR for that bank. First, let me start off by saying, on behalf of everyone here at IRUS, we are prepared to do whatever we can to get you to put down that. What happened?
He just shot out your monitor.
I'm sorry, but you have to understand how delicate of a situation this is.
Don't talk to me about delicate situations. You have got to wake up and do the math here, because it is not adding up to me either.
There's a strong financial theme to that movie. What's it saying about the way we sort of acquire wealth and lose it in America, do you think? Does it have a theme that...
You know, I think that it's just a really interesting look at what happens to various different people when something like this happens. And even though maybe there are not laws broken, that what is the moral complications when something goes wrong? So, yeah, I think it's interesting that we see it through the eyes of Jack O'Connell's character, Kyle. He's a young guy who sort of gets squeezed and loses everything he has. And then you also see George Clooney's character, Lee Gates. He's someone who's kind of coasting through life, telling people what they should and shouldn't invest in, and yet he never has to deal with the repercussions of that. So it's an interesting look at how it affects everyone.
Well, thanks a lot for coming to the Wall Street Journal. You got Money Monster, you got Outlander, and I appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.